嘿，Hello，大家好，欢迎来到我们这一期的 MIT
学
长
说。这一期呢，我们3个人都 remote 了，对吧？大家也能看到。然后这是我们第一期通过 Zoom 录的视频。
是的，你在哪儿 ？MFin？
我刚刚回家了嘛，我现在在美丽的青岛。老麦你在哪儿？
哎呀，我这个不小心跑到了 New Jersey 这边来养老来了，荒山野岭里面来了，贼想念你们。那老马呢？
我还在我们 MIT 学长说 Headquarter 波士顿 Office。Cambridge Office， 对
，OK， 那现在申请季基本上临近了嘛？那最近很多粉丝呢跟我们都反映说，他们既期待又紧张，他们很需要相关的非常专业的人士呢给他们带来一些建议。那么为此呢，我们今天专门请到了一位超级重量级嘉宾。
那他是谁呢？他就是 Heidi Pickett， 是 MFin 的 Program Director， 然后也是我们 MFin 的终极大 boss。
那在这一期 Heidi 也会跟我们讲一下，在疫情之下，那整个 COVID-19 整个 remote 的情况，对于 MFin 的 admission 到底有怎么样的影响？我们也知道 MFin 的 admission deadline 是1月5号，也就是刚刚结束。那相信很多我们的粉丝也已经 submit 了他们的 application， 在焦急的等待。所以我们也希望有什么最新的消息能第一时间传递给到我们的粉丝们。
然后呢，这次 Heidi 来也会给我们介绍一个相当于全新 launch 的MIT MicroMasters Finance 这么一个 program， 也算是 MFin 的弟弟 program 吧。那我们还等什么呢？那我们就废话不多说，让我们隆重有请 Heidi Pickett。
Thank you so much for being on our show. So firstly, could you give us a short introduction about yourself?
Great. Well, thank you so much for having me. So I am Heidi Pickett, and I am the Assistant Dean at MIT Sloan School of Management for the Master of Finance program. And I've been in this role since, I guess, 2011 I joined, when the program was still in pilot mode. The program had launched at the height of the financial crisis in 2008. And I was brought in from industry to leverage my finance background, where I'd spent almost 20 years with State Street, and had lots of knowledge of the industry, the skill sets that were required, and lots of contacts. So I was brought to Sloan to build out the program to what is now the #1 program in the world, US, and in the top 10 in the world according to Financial Times. But I think we all know that we should be recognized as #1 in the world, and we will be known for that in the near future.
That's really impressive. I think you're really experienced in financial industry, and a lot of our audience is actually curious about experts' opinion about what happened for the recent financial industry, especially under influence of COVID-19. So could you please give us more detail or your thoughts about the recent trends in the financial industry?
Yeah, sure. I would be pleased to do so. I've been thinking about this. I think about this every day. Just in terms of when we think about educating our students, it's not just about for that first role, but it's really for the long term. And so it's really important for us to recognize the trends and where the industry is headed. I would summarize it, COVID aside for a second, I would summarize sort of the top 3 trends that I'm focused on is sort of big data and the influence of big data and the skills that are necessary to analyze that and communicate that properly. That in combination with financial services is huge. So, one of the opportunities that we have in our Master of Finance program is to combine it with a certificate in business analytics. And that has been, really important, I think, for the skill sets for our students going forward. So big data would be #1. 2, I think the combination of finance and technology is also equally as important, particularly if you think about the prevalence of fintech. And we think of fintech as sort of being relatively new, but it's actually been around for, a long time. But just, with the increase in the resources and the technology we have and the problems that we can solve more quickly, really powerful combination. And so I think you're going to continue to see that particular part of the market develop and become more prevalent. And then the third one, I don't have a good name for how I would summarize this, but let me just talk about it as like social good. And you can't open up a newspaper or, pension investments or, whatever it is you might read, Wall Street Journal, Financial Times, without seeing ESG. ESG is becoming hugely important for investors and asset managers need to react to that. So ESG, but it goes beyond just ESG as well. I think about, climate finance, solving climate issues around the world cannot be left to governments and NGOs, that institutional money needs to step in and play a part in that. So climate finance, I think it's going to be, continue to be a big topic. And I would love to see a course developed all about climate finance. And then thirdly, I think about the work that Professor Andrew Lowe at MIT is doing in using finance to cure cancer and other big problems, and just the way that we can look at how the pharma companies fund drug development so that we can get drugs and cures out there faster. So I think that's a big part of the segment. And I think anybody who wants to do good in the world and solve real world problems and make a difference using finance is just an amazing opportunity.
Yes.
You would ask specifically about COVID-19, and it's hard for me to really comment on where that's going because we're still in the middle of it, and we don't know, and there's just so many other factors influencing. I think it's too early to tell. I can say that speaking for our Master of Finance students, the market continues to be strong. I think you all know that as well, and see that there are opportunities out there. What long-term impact COVID has, we'll have to see. But there's just so many other factors. Just look at what's happening in the US right now with the government and such. So, I think there's just a lot of things that need to play out before we really know, and that's around the world.
All right, thank you so much for sharing your insights on the industry, Heidi. And I'm sure our audience will find it super insightful and valuable. So I know nowadays, especially with COVID, everything goes from in person to online. I know Sloan just pretty much introduced MicroMasters just right before the pandemic happens. Okay, maybe now introduce a little bit more about the MicroMasters and maybe how it differentiates from other typical online courses.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. So we're super excited. This has been, this was long before pre-COVID when we set out to launch what we called the MicroMasters program in finance. This is the 5th MicroMasters launched out of MIT on the edX platform. And so, I think MicroMasters concept is still relatively new. So what is a MicroMasters? It's a collection of core foundational courses that are associated with a full master's degree. So in this case, it's associated with our Master of Finance program. And it is our core foundation finance courses, which is a combination of foundations of modern finance. For the purposes of online, we've broken it out into part 1 and part 2. If you came to study in residence, you would, as you 3 know, that it would be a very long summer that you would be focused on this course. We have a mathematical finance course as well, and financial accounting, which is really important in terms of business statement analysis and valuations and how decisions get made from corporate finance perspectives. And then we have what is sort of the capstone or elective, and it's a derivatives markets course. So I think what's important is to know that these are taught by our faculty that would be teach in our in-residence program. So there are no shortcuts. This is the real deal. This is the real content that you would get if you came to MIT and sat one of our classrooms. It's high quality production. So these are not simply recorded in the classroom. These are actually recorded in a studio. And to make it a little bit more digestible, each course runs 12 weeks. There's an onboarding week, 10 weeks of content, and then a proctored final exam, all online. And it's really short snippets of concepts. So think of a video that's about 7 to 8 minutes, and then you'll get a concept check to make sure that you're engaged and learning and getting that feedback right away. each week has a problem set, just like you would if you were, studying on campus at MIT. You're not going to get away without doing problem sets that are graded. And then you're going to have a one comprehensive final exam at the end. So it's the same caliber, the same rigor of the courses that you would get on campus. And I think that's different from some of the other online courses that you might see, that there's just so many out there. You just don't know who's teaching, what are their, accreditations, and, what is it going to mean at the end? This is the real deal. These are the courses that you would get if you were in residence at MIT. And we're super proud of that. We already get way more applicants than we could ever bring to our classroom. So the fact that we can offer high quality education broadly around the globe is really important to MIT's mission of being an educator for everyone.
Indeed, it sounds like a super rigorous structure, and also is about actually help students to engage, to learn. So I guess, as you mentioned, right? So one of the key differences from the other program is the education resources that MIT Sloan has. And we also talk about how strong the faculty is at MIT Sloan in our previous episode. So now could you talk more specifically about what some of the highlights of the faculty of the program?
Yeah, so these are the same faculty that you all know and probably love and have high respect for. So, and maybe I'll even ask you to kind of give some highlights since you learned directly from them. But teaching in our Foundations of Modern Finance, we have two co-faculty teaching. This is Professor Zhang Wang and Professor Leonid Kogan. They have been teaching in our Master of Finance program since it was created and launched in 2008. So they know our students well, they know the material well. So they are delivering the content for Foundations of Modern Finance. They both have deep insights into industry, but highly qualified educators and passionate about their research. Professor John Kaur, who is one of our tenured faculty, is teaching our financial accounting course. Again, deep expertise, strong educator, has a really great way of delivering content and really receives high ratings from students in residence. And I'm sure he'll receive equally high scores from our virtual learners as well when we launch his course in a few months. And Professor Paul Mendy, who has lots of industry experience, great technical skills. He teaches our mathematical finance course. And then our elective is Professor Debbie Lucas, really well-known, renowned faculty. She's teaching our derivatives. She teaches options and futures and fixed income in residence. This new course is sort of a combination of both of those courses, and again, just highly respected and has lots of experience inside of higher ed as well as in industry, primarily in the government sector.